In the past year or so, Clo has released a few new features which should potentially be very interesting to us as intimate apparel designers, including an improved ability for us to modify bust sizes, bust shapes, and the ability to test garments on soft body avatars. So in this video, I want to explore how useful this simulation data is, especially for using it to test patterns and assess fit. Hi, I'm Trudy. I am an intimate apparel designer specializing in using Clo3D specifically for the development of real-world garments. Okay, the first thing I want to note right off the bat is that Clo3D avatars are not my favorite to work with. The further that you move away from industry standard sizes and shapes, the less usable these avatars become. For example, this default avatar that you load when you load an avatar in the program is a height of 5'9" with a waist of 24 inches. So she's basically supermodel sized, not regular person sized. And you can easily access what Clo has given us for industry standard sizing, which are pretty good until you start getting into the plus sizing where things start getting a little bit wonky. Personally, when I make custom avatars, I prefer to use the avatars in DAZ 3D with a couple of different plugins, which I know I've been promising to make a video on for ages now, and I promise I plan on getting around to that next year. But I do appreciate the fact that Clo does come with stock avatars straight out of the box, which allows you to get into the program right away, learning how to use it and learning how to incorporate digital design without having to go into other software to find assets. So in this video, first I'm going to talk about the newer ability to modify bust volume, and then we'll look at how to modify the distribution of that volume. And towards the end of this video, I run a simulation with soft body turned on, breast modifications applied, and the same garment with different fabrics to see the results. So in previous versions of Clo, when you would change the full bust measurement, it would apply that change around the full circumference of the full bust. So it would apply it to both the sides and the back as well, which resulted in a pretty unnatural shape. So on this avatar, I modified her to have a 32 under bust and a 40 full bust. And in version 7.2 and before, this is what that would look like. This year, in V2024, Clo updated the avatar editor. So now when you apply an underbust measurement of 32 and a full bust measurement of 40, the difference is now applied to the cup size of the avatar and not to the back. And although I do think this is a massive improvement, it still doesn't allow us to modify the cup size independently to the rest of the body. You could very well have an individual with a measurement of 40 inches around her full bust, but some of that distribution might be in her back and some of it might be in the cups. So although I do appreciate that the new avatar editor allows us to modify bust volume, it still doesn't allow us to have control over the total volume distribution that we might be looking for. That being said, I do like the direction that Clo is going in, and I do find that the new avatar editor is more functional than the results I used to achieve in the older versions of Clo. Okay, so now that we've talked about how we can modify breast volume, we can move on to talking about the newest feature, which is the ability to modify the distribution of that volume, or another way to say it is the shape of the breast. So the new avatar editor looks like this. This is a Missy Curvy size 6, and we now have these 3 sliders that we can move up or down to modify the shape of the breast. So these are the extremes of what you can achieve. You can go full round, full teardrop, or somewhere in between. You can have very narrow spacing, very wide spacing, or somewhere in between. And you can have a very high bust or very, very low bust, or somewhere in between. And while we're here, I also want to mention this new crotch width slider, which is incredibly useful when you're trying to fit the crotch width area of the garment. I usually have this maxed out and I have been achieving pretty good results with it. Although I do massively appreciate the direction that these new features allow us to take with our 3D modeling, I think that breasts still come in such a wide variety of shapes, sizes, density, fullness, distribution, and these 3 sliders fall short on allowing us to capture all of those variations. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about in this video is the soft body simulation feature, specifically in combination with the new breast shape modifiers. While I was recording the videos for my course, Clo3D Foundations for Intimate Apparel, I thought an interesting test would be to run a simulation of the same pattern with the same avatar in the same parameters, but with 2 different fabrics. So what I did was I maxed out the avatar bust shaping features, so she's in the most unnatural position. Then I applied a knit ponte fabric to one simulation, and then to another simulation I used the same visual properties, but I changed the physical properties of that fabric to a stable cotton canvas. So theoretically, since this pattern is drafted to be made with a knit fabric and offer light support, it should allow the breasts to drop into their natural position, and we should definitely see a difference in fit between the knit fabric and the stable woven fabric. So maybe take a second right now to think about what you would expect the differences in fit to be between these 2 different fabric types, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. So I'm going to start the simulation here, and I'm going to just let it settle for a few seconds. On the left-hand side, I have a cotton canvas, and the right-hand side, it's a knit ponte. And the differences are pretty subtle, but I think they are very useful. On the left-hand side, you can see we're getting a lot of wrinkling under the cup, and that's because this pattern is not made for a woven fabric. The cups on this side are just too small, and the fabric is trying to find somewhere to go. Also, you can see the underband is pulling up on the woven side compared to the knit side because it doesn't have any stretch to actually go around the body, so it's trying to find somewhere to go, and it's pulling up at the center front. Now let's take a look at the side view. When I simulate here, the first thing I noticed on the woven fabric is that it's pulling out at the front because there's just not enough stretch around that fabric to conform to the body. And then I also noticed that the cup is pulling towards the front at the side seam here because, again, the fabric is trying to find somewhere to go because it doesn't have enough stretch to fit where it needs to. And again, from the side, we're seeing the wrinkling under the cup. And here are the 2 side-by-side images overlaid on top of each other. You can see that we are definitely getting more compression from the woven fabric that's underneath here. Right through here, that's the woven fabric, and this is the knit fabric. And you can also see how much more it's pulling up at center front than the knit fabric is. And here's, you can see the difference of the side seams. Okay, so in conclusion, how useful do I think these new features are for drafting our patterns and testing the fit of our patterns? And in my opinion, I think they're most useful for working with industry standard sizing. And as soon as you start going beyond what is sort of within the normal size range that you would find in the industry, you need to start looking into other options for where to get your avatars from with more realistic shapes and sizes like Daz3D. But I think it is a great place to start. Clo gives you these avatars with the program when you download it. So when you're just starting out, it's a fantastic place to start. And on that note, if you are new to Clo or you want to level up your intimate apparel design skills, I highly recommend learning Clo. And I've developed a course called Clo3D Foundations for Intimate Apparel, and you can check out the link in the comments below. That's all I got for you today. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. I hope you found it useful. I hope you learned something, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.